this episode, we explore why beliefs look so real and how they impact our lives. Have you ever wondered why you believe what you do, or what your beliefs are made of? Beliefs are incredibly powerful, and if we believe that we can, we likely can. But if we believe we can't, we probably won't. So let's dive into how we can free ourselves from limiting beliefs and open up to new possibilities for growth and change. Enjoy the show. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, Moles. How are you?
Good, Gems, darling. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Just want to say welcome to everybody and thank you to V Empire for sponsoring this episode. If you do have any questions, we would love to hear them. But if you don't want to speak, then you are more than welcome to message me and then I can go through them later on. Yeah, it's been a really busy week and well, it always happens coming up to Christmas, and I've got some Amazon deliveries coming. So if you hear me run off, that's because the doorbell's gone. And I remember you getting your Christmas tree delivered during UnMinding last year.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I remember that too. Oh,
yeah,
God, a whole year. I mean, I don't know where the week's gone. I don't know where the year's gone. But yeah, it's definitely sped by.
So we've got an interesting one tonight, all about beliefs and what they say or what they don't say about us, and how they can affect our lives. So really big subject tonight. We'll go into some more personal stories later on after you've done your bit. But yeah, some big beliefs have changed for me this year. I'm looking forward to Christmas for the first time, I think, ever, which has been a huge shift. So we can go into that a bit later.
Yeah. Gem's no longer a Scrooge. And have we got anybody that we'd like to thank this week?
We do, actually. We had a lovely message from Josh. Josh came on the show, How to Be Happy. He came on the show and explained that the show had helped him through a breakup, and he was in traditional therapy, and then he'd been listening to UnMinding and found that had helped him. So he sent us a lovely testimonial, and we'll pop it on the website so you guys can read it as well. So thank you to Josh. And also to Crypto Cos, who boosted us on Fountain, who sent a wonderful message, who said, "These women are changing the world 1 week, 1 hour at a time. The mental health revolution has begun. Moles and Gem are charging forward, helping people realise their power." So that was a really, really beautiful message. And we appreciate all of you. And thank you for being here. It's been such a great journey so far.
Yeah, they're two lovely messages. And I had a personal one as well from a client. So we had 3 this week that really kind of blew us away and really shows the power of what we're sharing here. And as always, you're part of the team. So please share the understanding, share the podcast, share the spaces, and let's just get as many people on board as we possibly can, because this understanding is going to change lives, but it can only do that one person at a time. So if every one of us shares with somebody, we're going to speed that process up. So yes, it's really fun and it's really exciting to see where we've come in a year. So as always, I'd like you to slow down. I'd like you to take some time out. If you can take the hour and just get quiet, that would be wonderful. Put down what you're carrying around. You do not need it. You do not need it for this hour. You don't need to work anything out. You don't need to figure out your problems. Just leave them all at the door and just relax and see what melts away and see what looks different after our hour together. You also may find that you may have some resistance to the conversation because, we are challenging the ego. And the ego can sometimes kick off when it gets challenged. So just be aware if it feels uncomfortable at any time, that's perfectly normal. And also the mind can often say, well, how can this work? How can just having a conversation about the true nature of who we are change my experience? But I can tell you it's the only thing that ever really does. It's going in that changes the outside world. It's seeing who we are before thought, before our beliefs, which we're going to look at tonight, that really shows us the experience that we're having and where it's coming from is something much deeper than the surface level. What looks like on the surface isn't truth. It's just what it looks like on the surface. There's something much deeper. If you go to the surface of water, there's waves. There's all sorts of things going on the surface of the water. But is that the truth of water? If you go to the sea, if you go to the ocean, it's in the depths that you see the expanse, you see the truth, you see the true nature of water. The waves are just something that it's experiencing, and that's us. So we're having this experience, and actually understanding who we are at the deepest level really takes the profound to the practical. It takes this really profound, deep understanding and turns it into something that's really helpful for our everyday experience. So, yeah, it's just remembering that there is a point to this conversation. Yeah, it's wonderful for an hour to listen, but the depth of what we're pointing to can have real changes in your everyday life. And really, that's what we're all looking for. We all want a healthier, happier life. And you're only ever one thought away from that. Ram Dass is one of my favourite teachers. He always says, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. So again, if we can get a little bit quieter, that would be wonderful. And we're talking about beliefs. Now, that's a huge subject. What is a belief? Well, a belief is a mental representation of something that you believe to be true. You may have formed it based on your culture, based on your family, based on what you believe to be evidence, based on experience, based on any influences that you may have. But ultimately, it's you taking those things and turning them from thought into a belief. It's based on opinion. And they're really influenced by so many factors, but all those things actually come from us, which we've looked at on previous shows. So if you're new, please go back and listen to some of our older shows to kind of dive into a little bit more of what we're talking about when we talk about thought. In the principles, thought is an energy that we all experience. It isn't personal, that we personalize, and beliefs have come out of that. So a belief is actually thought looking real. It's a thought that we've had over and over and over again. And we have so many. They're invisible. It's like our world is made up of our beliefs, but we don't notice it. Think of all the beliefs that you have. Beliefs about yourself. Do you think you're great? Do you think you're shit? Are you good? Are you bad? Are you wonderful? Beliefs about money. Have you got enough? Have you got too much? Do you think you'll be rich? Do you think you'll never be rich? How much do you think is enough money? How much do you think is too little money? Relationships. Are they good? What are your views on men? What are your views on women? Work. Are you busy? Are you good enough? Beliefs, there's so much. There's so many that create our experience, but we look as if it's the world that is creating that experience, and we've forgotten that it's our beliefs. So the world and everything in it is actually our belief system. It just doesn't look that way. So it is a subjective concept, and each one of us has our own unique beliefs. So every one of us on this call will have our belief system, and we'll be quite wedded to them, and we'll believe that they're the true ones and that other people's are wrong. But when we start to view them from the perspective of the principles, we kind of begin to see that, oh, they're quite a fluid thing. I made that up. So what makes me right and the other person wrong? We start to kind of loosen it up a bit, and it allows us to actually be around other people's beliefs very easily. Whereas I think we're living in a world where people get really offended by other people's beliefs now, and it doesn't have to be like that. It's like, oh, when you see that it's just subjective and it's not personal to you what someone else believes, it's not offensive to you what someone else believes, you can start undoing all that, and we can get really interested in other people. And even if someone's got a belief that you may feel you're against, it can be really interesting to find out that they have that belief and where that belief comes from. So with this understanding, we're constantly challenging them. But what you have to remember is that the ego will constantly look to prove your beliefs. Yeah, the ego is made of your beliefs, your character, your personality. Everything is made from the beliefs you have about the world or about yourself. So when we challenge that, it's like the ego can get a little bit caught up. So it's really interesting because there is a certain amount of pain you have to go through to go beyond your own belief system. Okay, because it can be quite uncomfortable, challenging what you think of yourself and what you think of the world. But beyond that challenge is a lot of freedom. What we fail to notice is that if these beliefs are creating our world, are they helpful or unhelpful? Because if they're unhelpful, what is the point of them? Why do we hang on to them if they're actually creating a world that isn't beneficial to us, that isn't helpful to us? Like Jem, as she said at the beginning of the call, hated Christmas. That didn't really help her. I mean, maybe she saved money buying presents, but other than that, it was probably quite detrimental. So it begins to be, well, if I see through that belief and see it's not true, well, I can have more enjoyment in life. I can have more freedom in life, because a belief wants to calcify your experience. It wants to calcify itself. It wants to calcify the identity. It wants to turn it into form. So if we begin to see that we don't need to do that and we can have much more fluid beliefs, they can come up and fall away. They don't have to be quite so sticky. You go through the initial pain of challenging them, and I think actually at some point it gets quite comfortable once you've gone through that to challenge your beliefs. I don't really tend to have a problem with challenging my beliefs anymore like I did in the beginning, because now I know that they're mostly bullshit. So there's no point in me being upset about one coming up and not being true. So why do we believe what we believe? As I said earlier, we've taken thought and we've turned it into form. A belief is a thought that you think over and over again, like water turned to ice. But as soon as it's seen for what it is, as soon as that icy belief is seen as untrue, is seen as something that we've made up, it flows back into water. And what's really interesting about a belief, when we no longer believe it, it doesn't exist anymore. Can you see it has no existence? It has no form. I often say to clients, it's at one point you probably, when you were a child, believed in Santa, and then at some point you didn't. But you don't have to remind yourself every Christmas that you don't believe in Santa anymore. The belief fell away. That's true for all our personal beliefs as well. As soon as they're dissolved, as soon as the balloon has been popped of belief, they're gone. We don't have to work on it. If you find yourself having to work on a belief, it means that you still believe it. And a belief no longer believed has no power over you whatsoever. But it's remembering that our belief system is a mirror. The world shows us what we believe. And again, that comes back to us having this personal responsibility, having this idea that we're the powerful ones, that actually we're not a victim to the world. Our beliefs are creating that world. And when we see through them, it's actually us taking on the role of actually identifying that it's all us. And actually not being a victim is incredibly helpful for our experience. Actually seeing that the world is our creation is very helpful for our experience. When we're projecting out and making it about the world and being a victim of that, there's nothing we can do about that. When it's our own beliefs, we can reflect inward and see beyond that and have a much better experience. So it's always like, is that belief enhancing my life? Is that belief making it better in any way? Or also the other way is like, why is my experience looking like that? What am I believing that is being so unhelpful that is creating maybe quite a negative experience for me in life? And a belief can look big and powerful, but when seen as thought, they shrink. They're not that anymore. They're just thoughts that we've believed to be true over and over and over again. If you believe you can, you probably can. And if you believe you can't, you probably can't. It's like, why do these beliefs look so real? Well, because they're thought and we're always feeling thought, we feel them. But again, the ego wants to justify it, wants to make it real. So we'll have all the feelings around that belief looking real. Like Jem's Christmas, like hating Christmas belief, that would look really real to her until she saw that she was making it up. And she would have had evidence of that. Christmas probably wasn't great because of that. So can you see how undoing these unhelpful beliefs actually gives us freedom, actually connects us more with life? It doesn't separate us from life. Our beliefs are what create the separation. Coming home to who we are connects us back into the oneness. It connects us back into the shared experience of being human. We fall out of this belief system being calcified and hard and creating a tough world to actually getting in flow with life, to allow experience to just be. We're always going to have beliefs. So don't think because I understand and I teach this that I'm not full of belief. Of course I am. But there's a lot of unhelpful thinking and a lot of unhelpful beliefs that have fallen away over the years and will continue to fall away. I don't think we can be human without having beliefs. I think it's part of the human experience. But the contracted ones, the ones that we believe that make life tough, can be seen through and can help us to enjoy life. Again, back to what I said at the beginning, all these conversations, although incredibly profound, are all about us having a better experience of being alive. And that's always what we're looking for. Dr. Bruce Lipton is an author, and he wrote a book called The Biology of Belief, which I highly recommend. And he says our beliefs control our bodies, our minds, and thus our lives. And it's seeing through the illusion of who we are. It's seeing what we're making up. Because what we're making up is what we're experiencing. We're not experiencing a world against us. We're experiencing our own beliefs projected back at us. So then when we get to see through that and we get to connect more with life, it takes away a lot of the fears. It takes away a lot of the anxieties, because we're not up against the world. We're just seeing it through our limited belief system. And if that's the case, the world becomes friendlier, because we're not projecting all our bullshit onto it. We're coming home. We're seeing something deeper. We're seeing that this universe that we're part of is actually one where we can thrive. It's not just about surviving. And we can get so locked into unhelpful beliefs about the world that it can seem like a fight. It can seem like a fight to be alive. It can seem like a fight to live. It can seem like a fight to pay the bills, whatever your fight is. When you come home and look within, you'll see that that fight is you against you. And we can drop out of that. And as we drop out of that, we begin to see more of who we are. And who we are isn't limited. Who we are isn't negative. Who we are isn't unlucky. Whatever crappy beliefs that we've held on to, as we see through them and see our true nature, which is one of love, one of peace, one of connectedness, one of joy, if we just access that even a little bit, that changes our experience of being alive. And that experience of being alive, as I said, is one that can be really joyful. Now, of course, it's going to have times of contraction and upset. We are having the human experience. But there's so much joy and so much simplicity out there that we forget to notice, because we're so locked into our complexity. We're so locked into our belief systems. And if my beliefs are reflecting back to me in the world, surely the beliefs are my place to go to create change in my world. Surely I want to challenge my belief system and see the world differently and have a richer experience of being alive. Because if you think about every belief that you've ever had, it's come from thought, and you weren't born with it. It's been added as time's gone on. This additive nature of thought that's turned into belief that's created you. So if we strip that back, if we come back to the truth of who we are, before you had applied any meaning, before you even maybe applied words, before you applied opinions, that you is joyful and free. And I work with people that, going through some really tough times. But you see, when you point to that, it doesn't diminish what they're going through in the sense of we bypass it or we say they're not going through a tough time. But there's something in accessing something deeper that allows them some relief. And that relief is seeing before thought. It's seeing before opinion. It's seeing before belief. It's seeing before behaviour. It's seeing that all of that is there within us at any given moment, but we're constantly covering it up because the human experience is one made of thought and belief. So coming home to truth and coming away from the contraction of this humanness and touching something deeper really is where everything that we're looking for is at. So we think we're looking for it outside of ourselves, and we think that all these things that we want lie outside of ourselves. But it's just in a glimpse of who we are before who we think we are that it lives. It's pre-concept, it's pre-belief, it's pre-opinion, it's pre-thought, that when we touch that it's just revealed. Our true nature is there. We don't have to work at it. It's the crack in the ego that allows that light to be seen. And as we see it, we wake up. You know, that light wakes us up to who we are. And just those tiny glimpses change everything. They change our whole experience of being alive. And it's all on the other side of your beliefs. And I love that because it just makes it so easy. It just makes it so simple. We don't have to manipulate the world to be okay. We can just be. And we can just explore our inner worlds and know that that alone is what's going to change the outer world. Challenge, who am I? Who do I think I am? How do I think the world works? What do I think about the world? What do I think about humanity? Am I seeing who I really am? And am I seeing the infinite potential, my true nature? Or am I seeing my limitations? Because all those limitations are what you've made up about yourself. None of them are your true nature. So it's so interesting to begin to just explore, just inquire, just get curious about who I am, who you are. What are these thoughts? What are these feelings? What are these habits? What's this internal conflict I'm in? Why is it there? Because we can all be so conflicted at times, and it takes us away from our stillness. It's like, what's that conflict? It can be us against the world. That's another belief. Why do we try to manipulate to feel a certain way? Because, we believe that's what we need to do. So you can see how everything ties back to belief and how all these beliefs take us away from a clear mind. We're always trying to get somewhere, trying to be someone because of our belief system. But you are already everything, and you are already who you need to be. There's a perfection to who you are. It's already there. It's inbuilt. There's nothing for you to get to be okay. You know, you are infinite creative potential. You are at one with it. You are it. And then all these ideas and wants. Now, it's okay to still want stuff, obviously. I still do. Jem still does. But having so much on those wants and on those desires, we begin to free ourselves up from that. We allow life to flow. We don't push quite so hard against ourselves, because we see that that can often be detrimental to the self, because everything that you want is who you already are. And a belief is just a thought that you believe to be true. And as I often say on these spaces, that I'm pretty sure that no thought is true. So that just dissolves those beliefs and just reveals this freedom that we're all looking for. Jem.
Oh, that was really wonderful. And you make it sound so simple. And it is really simple, but the way that you just explained it all then, and I loved what you said about going from the profound to the practical. And for someone that's listening for the first time, is there a way to sort of manually go through your beliefs to figure that out? You know, someone that's listening for the first time, how would they do that?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's got to be more organic than a system. You know, for me, I guess it's they appear and I'm like, oh, that's bullshit. And they disappear. And I'm sure I've got lots that I haven't seen are bullshit yet, and they'll disappear when they're meant to. So I think if you're new to it and you're hearing something, it would just be that inquiry, that inquisitiveness into, oh, this could be interesting. I wonder what this would mean for my life. And just to explore it and listen to our minding, and then begin to notice areas that you have beliefs that are unhelpful, and you will be able to see them, but they will appear to you at the right moment that they appear. It's almost, I don't think you can force it. I've never been able to force seeing through a belief because it doesn't look like a untrue belief until I see it's not true. So I know that can be a bit confusing, but I think you get what I mean. I think when you just look in this direction, when you look towards the three principles, when you have these conversations, that actually you start to see it. It's just like going from one reality to another, but going from a reality of, or an illusory reality of where the world's coming at me and it's nothing to do with me and I'm just a victim of the world, to I'm creating it all via my thoughts and my beliefs and my opinions. And that's what's reflected back to me. So we go to one of being powerful. And it's not an ego power. This isn't a power like I'm so powerful. It's just this innate power that we have, the power of consciousness. That's who we are. You know, as I said before, the infinite potential. When we begin to explore that, beliefs will just show themselves to you as being untrue. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's really perfect. It's just, I'm always trying to listen now from somebody that's got no idea about the principles. And I know that if I'd have heard what you'd have just said, I would be thinking, right, I'm really up for this. How do I go through all my beliefs? People probably come to you or find out about the three principles or go down this path for a particular reason, say something's not great in their life or they want to improve it somehow. But what I've found is actually it affects every single area of your life. So as you're just going about your day or doing your daily routine, something will come up that is very common for you. And then you'll look at it and think, oh, you know, do I enjoy doing that? Or this relationship with that person, is it actually what I want? It allows you to question everything, but not get stuck in the daily rigmarole of just living as a robot, kind of on autopilot. You're able to see every situation through fresh eyes when you're in it. But yeah, I find that as soon as one thing goes, there's something else. And it's like, wow, it feels like it's almost never ending. But I think that is what the three principles does, is it really gives you a great overview and a great way to deal with sort of everything. And one thing that I come up against quite a lot, hopefully a question that will help other people as well, but struggling with taking your own advice when you're great at giving the answers that you know are correct, but why is it so hard to implement it yourself? And are there any ways to make that easier?
Well, I think it goes back to your belief system, doesn't it? Again, it's like everything leads back to thought and belief. So when you're looking at your own advice, it's like, are you giving it because you really believe it, you know, for yourself, or are you just, you know, oh, that sounds like good advice? Because if you really believed it for yourself, you'd be doing it. And it doesn't mean to say we shouldn't give advice that, you know, that we're not following. I'm sure I do it all the time, but it's just seeing that it's okay. It's okay that sometimes we show up in one way and sometimes we show up in another way. Our belief system is still always creating that. So seeing beyond them, seeing through them, doesn't mean to say that suddenly we show up and, you know, we're doing all the great things for ourselves. We're generally being much more helpful towards ourselves and much kinder to ourselves, but we're still going to have areas that are a bit sticky. So I would say still give that advice. Don't think you can't give advice because, oh, well, I'm not doing that myself. You can even be really honest. Say, look, I'm not quite there yet seeing this and doing it for myself, but I know it's really helpful to do this. Because I just think a really honest conversation is a wonderful thing to have. And if we look at beliefs, they're so powerful. You think about the placebo effect, it's so well known. People, you know, in drug trials get better when they've had a placebo. We forget that the mind is so incredibly powerful. But these beliefs that look true are literally just, they are energy. They are thought. There's nothing there. We've made it up. That's why they can dissolve so easily, because that's how they appear. They come from nothing and they appear, and then they dissolve back into nothing. It's such a beautiful thing when you see the human experience from the depths of truth. We can get really caught up from the humanness, and you know, and we can feel like it's a really shitty experience. But when we see it from the creative aspect, it's amazing that we're here, that we're having this experience, that we're having these conversations, that we're alive, that we can taste, touch, feel, and see. It's like it's a miracle, but we add so many unhelpful beliefs to that miracle that we forget that we're a miracle.
Yeah, and it's just sort of uncovering all of that. But one thing that's quite strange or different with this understanding is that you don't have to figure out why you had those beliefs, and you don't have to figure out what caused them or anything like that. Whereas everything that I've tried to do before, it has always been, why do you have that belief, or why is that there? And to know that none of that means anything takes all of that away. The traditional way of trying to uncover and unpick everything can be quite confusing. I don't know if you can explain it in a way that makes it very simple as to why there's no need to go into, why you might hate Christmas or why you might act a certain way with certain things.
Absolutely. I love the question. Yeah. So basically, traditional therapy can definitely help some people, but, we're going in a very different direction with the three principles and with what we're teaching on unminding. So say you went to a traditional therapist because you hated Christmas. They would want to dig into Christmas. They would want to find out all about your past Christmases and what happened at Christmas and why you felt like that. And it would compound the story. You would go into the story, you would go over it, you would relive it, you would feel it again. And it would try to do something with it by almost making it more real. And I think what we're doing here, well, I know what we're doing here is the opposite. It's we're saying, but all you have is this moment. That memory, yeah, you had a shit Christmas, one Christmas, and you've turned that into a belief that has marred every Christmas since. There's nothing to be found. The mind will always create, the mind will always add to the story. The mind will compound the story because the personal mind and the ego want it to be real because it being real is part of its survival. But with this understanding, we shine a light on it and we say, well, that's not happening anymore. That only happens when you think about it. So what you're experiencing when you think about that past Christmas is an illusion. It's an illusion lost in time. It's not here anymore. And that thought that you have around Christmas has no power unless you give it power and unless you say through your thoughts and your belief system, I hate Christmas because of this last Christmas. That's what you're going to experience. If through your thought system you begin to see the truth and see that the only thing we have is this moment and that we're totally fine in this moment, then you'll be able to go, wow, when that Christmas thought comes up, I don't believe it anymore. Well, it has no power then. It's done for. It's gone. It's dissolved. So this isn't about denial. We're saying, yeah, that happened, but why does it still have to have a continued effect? Because that's on us. That's us choosing that. It's not that that isn't truth. That's us innocently, through our limited perspective and through our belief system. It looks like the past is what's creating us in this moment. But actually, when we unpick that, when we see through it, we wake up to actually we're consciousness taking form in this moment, and we don't have to believe anything about our past. That's why you can get two people in the same family, and one would have had a fine experience and one would have had a traumatic experience, because it would depend what they carried with them. It would depend how they saw it. It would depend on them. That's the difference.
It is huge because all of a sudden, this story that I've been telling for the last however many years, it's not relevant anymore. And it's the most freeing thing. Like this year, my friends have been like, you're really excited for Christmas. What's going on? I said, oh, I don't know, but it's going to be fine. It is, absolutely. And when I think back, that story that I've told since I was 8 years old, word for word, been carrying it around forever, just repeating it without even thinking about it. And so it was so real. It was just part of me.
Mm.
And now it's not. So it's, yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah, well done you.
Yeah, so ho, ho, ho to everybody. Merry Christmas. Did anybody have any questions that wants to come up? We have got resident Nathan that is requesting. So I'm going to bring Nathan up. And we did have a laugh with Nathan last week. He delayed a meeting and I said, well, actually, you didn't even turn up. So I actually fired you last week, didn't I?
Well, yes, and the advisory call. Oh my God, it was awful. It was great. I love my advisory team. I love everybody on my team and stuff. The call just went way too long, and then I showed up 3 minutes before, and dang it, I was late. Anyway, I'm happy to be here, everybody. Nathan Wozniak. I really loved perspective, everything you both have to say. For myself, I live in Toronto, Canada. Canadian growing up, but I grew up in the prairies, and Christmas was a big thing for us in Alberta, and then in British Columbia, where I lived for a while as well. I lived in Vancouver, and my family is across the country. And I'll tell you, this year has been really hard on everybody, I think, financially. And I told myself, and I did some rigorous, not rigorous, to say introspective thinking and budgeting and all of that. And I told myself and told my family, I said, look, I could come and travel at a premium to see you, or I could get some thoughtful gifts, send them, and come visit when it's more affordable. And it'll be better energy between all of us. And wouldn't that be a better experience? And everyone pretty much was in agreement. But it sucks to be isolated. I'm literally isolated in a city of 6 million people, well, Greater Toronto Area, 6 million people. I'm the only person from my family, and I'm at least 3,000 kilometers away from the nearest family member. So it can get isolating. But I think for the first time in many years, I think Molly, you said you were the first. You were mentioning that this is the first Christmas you've really been looking forward to. Me too. Yeah, me too. So sorry for my fragmented story and rambling, but
No,
yeah.
thank you, and thank you for everything as always. And
Of course.
no, I'm Mrs. Christmas. I love Christmas. It was Jem that looking forward to
Oh, excuse me,
Christmas for the
Jem. Yes,
first
thank
time.
you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think it was when we were together in London, and I challenged Jem on her Christmas story last week, and she was like, "Oh my God, yeah, maybe that isn't true." So who knows what your Christmas is going to be like? See, this is again, it's you have a belief about what's going to happen like in 10 days' time. Well, don't really know what's going to happen in 10 days' time. So again, if we can come back to the moment, and you know what I think is really helpful is that if we just then look at it and make it less about us. So, well, I've helped these
Yeah.
other people, or maybe go and help in a shelter for the day if you're going to be on your own, or because then we can do that connection. Yes, obviously it'd be lovely to be with your family, but we're connected to the whole of humanity. And it might be just give you a different experience this year that you were meant to have. And then next
Mm-hmm.
year you'll be back with your family. So we never really know what's on the table for us in an hour's time, let alone in 10 days' time. So I think it's just that challenging our beliefs about the future, challenging our beliefs about the past, challenging our beliefs about ourselves. And
Right.
actually within that, it can just free us up a little bit.
Oh, I totally agree. I just want to quickly say, I mean, I go back to my memories of childhood. Like, I remember I was with a bunch of technology people, like in 1999, tech group I was with, and we were going to the DEF CON computer hacker conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. Pretty badass. I was in that scene, I'd say, more of a gray hat researcher, not like, one of those criminals or anything like that. But one of our driver, our leader, the mentor had not only had a travel itinerary, but like an itinerary for everything we were going to do. And I looked at him and I said, even at 17 years old, and he was a ripe old age of 26, and my mother had to get a written thing. You go across the border to the U.S. because I'm Canadian, right? And I looked at him. I said, just rip that up, like itinerary. Like, let's just let it flow. Let it happen. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, you're right, Nathan. And he ripped it up. He's like, yeah, let's make it happen. And of course he had some plans in the back of his head, but that made it so much better to be spontaneous. And I take that sort of mindset into my life as well. And with anything I do, travel, Christmas, it's just like, okay, because you ever notice, like, when you're expecting to, you're hoping for the best Christmas, you're planning for the best celebration of whatever it happens to be, it never goes the way you want to, right? Expectations just end up failing. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, expectations are tough on us. they're things that we create and then beat ourselves up when life doesn't live up to them. So it's always
Sure.
best to drop them as much. I still think it's great to have some, but some can be unhelpful. So there's something we can play with. I think as long as we don't have everything on an expectation and we can be loose with it, then I think they're okay. I think it's when we get so attached to an expectation or we let them control our moods and our feelings, that's when it becomes unhelpful. But as you say, flow is the state, flow is our natural state, which is so interesting. But we go into control. We want to control rather than flow. And it's like ego versus true self. True self is flow, ego is control. So we're always going to be a little bit in that battle as a human being. And actually, I think control might be a really good subject for us to cover one week. But totally get you. Totally. Unminding has been a flow. There's been times where Jem's maybe said to me, well, now we've got this far, so now we really need a plan and we need to do this, this and this. And I just pull it back and I say, it's really working with the flow, Jem. And she says, yeah, it's really working with the flow.
Yeah. And that's because you love control. I'm joking. No,
and she loves flow, and that works, right?
It does. Well, the only constant in life is change, right? And we try, and when things are going really well, I'm like, well, this is great, so we've got to keep doing it like this. And it's like, that was going great, and the next thing will be great too. It's really just get into it. And yeah, but what you said about being isolated on Christmas, Nathan, you're only isolated if you think you are. Aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You both remind me of two of my favorite artists and producers, and also DJs. And one member is more about sort of the creative, and one is more about the constant. And I think some of the listeners may know who they are. And actually, I know them. I'm acquaintances with them. They'll probably kick my ass for telling that I know them. Tom and Ed Chemical. Tom Rowlands, Ed Simons from Chemical Brothers. I've been big fans of theirs since '96. They're from Manchester. I've been like big fans, and that's how they are. They're like, we're chaos, we're creativity. So it's kind of wild. Yeah.
I like that comparison.
Yeah, me too. With the Chemical Brothers of mental health.
Yeah, the Chemical Sisters.
Yes.
I like it. I love it. Thank you. Yeah. Oh,
welcome.
Amazing. Well, if anyone else would like to come up and ask any questions, you are more than welcome. I don't actually have too many more questions.
I think that we can probably end a little bit early. I'm cool with that. I mean, we've done nearly an hour. If no one wants to talk and there aren't questions, I think that would probably be the perfect ending. I mean, it's a belief that we have to do the whole hour.
Oh, come on. We can definitely talk the whole hour.
I mean, I had some nice quotes. So let's just see what the quote is that I had written down. This is from William James, and he was actually one of the founders of traditional psychology. And interestingly, he always said there would be principles that would be found that would underpin psychology and change its nature. And I really believe this is the three principles. But he also said, believe that life is worth living, and your belief will help create the fact. And I think that's so true. It really points to what we're saying here, which is that your beliefs, they really are creating your world, and your beliefs are made of thought. So the world really is made of thought. Michael Neill's a fabulous teacher of this understanding, and he does some courses, and he does one called the advanced course. And when he explains it, he says, what I teach on the advanced course is, no, it really is all thought. And it's seeing that our minds, our thought systems is creating this world moment by moment. And there's so much to be seen and so much to be found and so much to experience. And as we let go of how we think it should be and show up to the way it is, we really do enjoy it a lot more. There's another lovely quote, and it is, most people do not see their beliefs. Instead, their beliefs tell them what they see. This is the simple difference between clarity and confusion. So
is that biases?
But a bias is a belief, yeah. Yeah, bias is 100% a belief.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what doesn't look like a belief that is? There's so much there. There's so much to see. And these 100,000 thoughts a day that we have, a lot of them are our belief system at play. So just begin to explore that, begin to look through them, begin to challenge them and see what's on the other side of them. What does that look like for you? What does it look like when you drop your beliefs about certain things, about who you are, about the way the world is, about how life shows up for you? I know as soon as I'm up against the world, as soon as I challenge my thinking around it, something shifts in the world for me. This isn't just about our minds, this is about our lives. If I'm seeing it a certain way and I'm stuck and the world it looks like something's going against me, if I really truly look at it, I see it's me against me, and it undoes. And something will loosen up, something will lighten up, or, something will come in that changes something. Like, oh, that really was all me. Over and over again, since I found the principles, oh, it really is all thought and it really is all me. And that's bloody wonderful because I can do stuff about that. That puts me in the driver's seat, so to speak, rather than the world coming at me. It's like I'm not a victim. I can't be a victim because it's all me. It's all a mirror.
Totally. And those quotes definitely rounded off everything perfectly. What a wonderful episode about beliefs. And I think there's much, much more that we can cover with beliefs in the future. It's such a huge subject. Just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. Please share this episode and thank you very much to the Empire for sponsoring us. If you're listening on Fountain, then please give us a boost and Happy New Year, because this will be 2023 episode release. So Happy New Year to everybody. And thank you for being with us.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Happy New Year, everybody. Let's rock 2023. Let's kick the shit
out. New year, new me.
Okay. Oh, shut up, Nathan.
I know. I'm just being sarcastic. Love you both. You're both. Mwah. Bye.
We love you too.
Goodbye.
Love everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Please share and we will see you next week.
We will. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
I can't find the music. I've lost it.
Nathan, on. Sing it. La, 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 la. Hold on. What's it on? Okay, got it. Gonna play it. Love everybody. Bye.